Hi, and welcome to episode 4 of the Innsmouth Gold videocast. As promised last time, today we're looking at two graphic novel adaptations of Michael Moorcock's Elric, The Ruby Throne, Volume 1, and Stormbringer, Volume 2. Michael Moorcock, of course, is an English author who came to prominence in the 60s and 70s with his fantasy and science fiction short stories and novels. He's still very active today. Rock fans might know him through his association with the band Hawkwind, who, by the way, we went to see a couple of months ago and are still great. They're out on tour at the moment. If you get the chance, do go and see them. So Moorcock created Elric as a kind of antidote to what was becoming the cliched, superhuman, hugely muscled barbarian hero. Elric is weak, sickly, he's an albino, he relies on a vampiric soul-drinking sword called Stormbringer. He's also a sorcerer and he frequently summons the aid of Elric, the Lord of Chaos, for assistance. In fact, he's from Melniboné, he's not even human. He comes from a race who are very decadent and cruel. So this is a far cry from our Robert E. Howard Conan or similar types of sword and sorcery hero. So there are two novels in this series so far. They've been put together by a French quartet, Julien Blondel, Didier Pauly, Robin Recht and Jean Bastide. I wasn't at all familiar with any of these people's work before. They have been very active, particularly in France, of course, and there's a short bio of each in the first volume. What we also get in the first volume is, as soon as you open it, the very first thing is an introduction by Michael Moorcock himself, which of course is a very encouraging thing to see. He gives something about the background of the character and how it came about, and one thing he does say here is he thinks this is the best graphic novel adaptation of Elric that is seen. So after that, you know you're not going to go far wrong. The second volume also has an introduction. Well, it's more of an essay, to be honest. It's quite detailed by another one of my favourite writers, Alan Moore. So he goes into some detail about how he first encountered Elric, some history of the character from a graphic novel perspective, and lots of good insights and information. So there's two volumes at the moment, both in hardback. The artwork throughout each is excellent. It's very well detailed and for me bears repeated reading. Unlike some of the artwork I was complaining about last time, what I call the modern artwork, which seems to be not so well detailed to me and quite bland in places. Really good artwork throughout. For the writing, I first read the Elric books back in the 70s after getting into Conan and Robert E. Howard and Tolkien, Fritz Leiber and all the rest, and it has been a while since I read in fact any Elric stories, to be honest, so how close these stick to those first couple of novels I can't say. Moorcock in the introduction to the first one does mention some changes and adaptations, but he feels that they stick to the spirit of the story. If Moorcock's happy with any changes, then I certainly am as well. Outside of that perspective, I found the writing to be very good. It certainly matches the quality of the artwork. One thing I particularly liked in the first volume was how Elric's people are shown to be extremely cruel and decadent in quite a graphic way. In fact, some of the scenes are quite disturbing. So this is definitely an adult fantasy graphic novel. And that's one thing that does peeve me a bit. I think especially in film, maybe not so much in TV now with Game of Thrones, but certainly in film, fantasy is so often pitched at a kind of teen or pre-teen market. It does annoy me because there's such a wealth of good adult fantasy available, and you have to wonder when filmmakers are going to start tapping into that. So these are volumes 1 and 2. I did read that this was supposed to be the start of a 4-part series. There were going to be 4 volumes in all. Now these came out 2014, 2015, so it's been a couple of years now, and as far as I know there's been no further volumes printed. I don't know why that is. Perhaps it's because of lack of sales on these or something else, but I do hope that they do get around to doing the next 2 volumes. Whether you're looking for an introduction to the character and world of Elric, or whether you're someone who, like me, has read most or if not all of the Elric stories and all the other offshoots of that, then I highly recommend these 2 volumes. Even just as graphic novels, I think they're outstanding. They're very nicely produced, very nicely written. There's, as I said, we've already mentioned the introduction. In the back there are also sketch notes, ideas of how they came up with the different concepts for the novel, and lots of extra artwork there too to look at. They're still available on Amazon, I'm sure many other places, for around £10 or £11, which I think is great value for a hardback graphic novel of this quality. So just 2 other quick news items to mention before we go. The first is that work has almost finished on my first sword and sorcery novel, Wolf in the Shadows. We're just putting together the final cover now. There's a few roughs just coming up I can show you. And that book is going to be the first in a series called The Wolf Who Would Be King. And it's kind of an homage to Robert E. Howard. I'm not going down the Elric route. It's very much, I'm afraid, the stereotypical northern barbarian. But we're hoping to put that out in about 3 or 4 weeks. The second piece of news is we're currently giving away a free track from our Ritual and Dream Lovecraftian Soundscapes album. You can hear it playing under here now. It's called Innsmouth Church, and it was actually recorded in the Esoteric Order of Dagon in Innsmouth itself, at great risk to our sound engineer, might I add. So if you want to grab a free copy of that, just follow the link below, and I'll also put it in the show notes. So that's it for this episode. Please remember to subscribe, share, follow us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter as well now. And if you do have any suggestions of things you'd like us to cover or look at, be they music, film, books, anything relevant, then do get in touch. See you soon.